Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 up front for 3 months plus taxes and fees. Promo rate for new customers for limited time. Unlimited more than 40 gigabytes per month. Slows full terms at mintmobile.com.
Millions of people have lost weight with personalized plans from Noom. Like Evan, who can't stand salads and still lost 50 pounds.
Salads generally for most people are the easy button, right? For me, that wasn't an option. I never really was a salad guy. That's just not who I am. But Noom worked for me.
Get your personalized plan today at Noom.com. Real Noom user compensated to provide their story. In 4 weeks, the typical Noom user can expect to lose 1 to 2 pounds per week. Individual results may vary.
Okay, welcome to another episode of What's New in History. We have a special guest today, and the story goes, in the far reaches of Indonesia is Flores. It's a long, narrow island of high mountains, precipitous cliffs, and deep ravines. And while doing field work on this island, our guest today, anthropologist Gregory Forth, came across people talking about a half-apelike, half-human-like creature that once lived in a cave on the slopes of a nearby volcano. So over the years, he continued to record what locals had to say about these mystery hominoids while searching for ways to explain them as imaginary symbols of the wild or other cultural representations. In his latest book, Between Ape and Human, an anthropologist on the trail of a hidden hominoid, you can follow him as he explores the mystery of this hominoid and the space they occupy in Leo cultures as both natural creatures and supernatural beings. I've read the book, and it's filled with adventure, an exploration of Leo culture and language, and an examination of the island's zoology and natural history. It's super interesting. But while it's especially of interest to fans of history, in 2003, several skeletons of small-statured early human species were found in a cave in western Flores. And this is the famed Homo Floresiensis, which I always have a hard time pronouncing, also called the Hobbit people. And this ancient hominin was believed to have lived as recently as 12,000 years ago, and maybe even overlapping with the appearance of Homo sapiens on the island. And in view of this timing and the striking resemblance to these mystery creatures described by the islanders, Dr. Forth began to think about the creatures as possibly reflecting a real species, now extinct but retained in the cultural memory. And then investigating reports from the region of the island, he soon found that the locals described these ape men as still living, and dozens even claimed to have seen them. So, about our author and our guest today, Gregory Forth received his doctorate at Oxford and was a professor of anthropology at the University of Alberta for more than 3 decades. And he's a fellow of the Royal Society of Canada and is the author of more than 100 scholarly papers and several academic books. But this is his first book for a general audience. So welcome, Gregory Forth. Thanks for being with us today.
Well, many thanks. Happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you. And actually, it came out a couple weeks ago, we found a story. I forget what it was in, and we briefly covered it. We just mentioned that there was an article, in the news. I mean, it was Forbes or something about your book. So we talked about it to our listeners a little bit, and basically just covered the article. And I said, I'm going to see if I could contact the author and if he'll do an interview with us. So we're honored, and our fans are waiting, to hear about what's going on with these. With Flores Island and possibly an ancient hominoid still there.
Yeah. Okay. I just ask. The Forbes articles, was that recent?
I'm not sure if it was Forbes, but it was quite recent. I could find out. Okay.
Now I know Forbes had a review of the book about a year ago when the hardcover first came out.
It may have been. Sometimes the articles I get are copies from the other one, so it was definitely within a year, but it was relatively recent. I think most of it was the first chapter, I believe, was in the. Oh no, I know what it was on. It was in Sapiens. That's where I saw it.
Sapiens. Oh,
Sapiens. You know the Sapiens. I can never pronounce his name. Nora Harari. And they have like a website with interesting things like that.
Oh, Sapiens. Yeah. No, indeed, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us something. I mean, just like I'm a very inquisitive type of person, and I'm sure our fans are too. I'm just like I wouldn't even know where to start. I would just say, just like tell us about your work and give us a little. Start off somewhere where we found these ape men, as you call them.
Yeah, sure. Well, I might begin by saying I am a professional anthropologist, but I'm now retired. Have been since the end of 2019, just before the pandemic, which was another great piece of timing.
Yeah, good timing.
But I began my anthropological research way back in the 1970s. Very much younger than now, of course, when very young in general, I should say, when I began doctoral fieldwork on the island of Flores, the island of Sumba, which is also in the eastern part of Indonesia. About 10 years after that, in the early to mid 1980s, I began a new piece of research on Flores Island, just to the north of Sumba. And while I was there on Flores, in the early days of my Flores research, I began hearing stories about beings that were human-like, but people said not fully human. They were smaller than modern humans, including local humans on Flores, who were much shorter than typically than North Americans.
Yeah.
For example, that was in a place called Nage, which is right in the center of Flores, and it's the region of Flores Island that I've actually written most about. Whereas as the present book between Ape and Human is focused on the Leo people who live a bit further to the east. Anyway, when I started work among Nage, I was particularly interested in a legend or myth which concerned a group of these small human-like beings that were said to have lived on the higher slopes of a nearby volcano.
Mm-hmm.
To have interacted with local humans, largely in negative ways by, stealing their crops and so on, so that eventually people, the members of a particular group, inhabitants of a particular village in Nage, got together and decided to exterminate these little hominoids. Yeah,
I did hear that story once in a podcast years ago. That was the first thing that piqued my interest on the story.
Well, there you are. I mean, I have written on this, previously before I got onto the present book, the present case. I found it fascinating because it was people there in Nage. Nage people were insisting that, this wasn't a folk tale or fairy story like others we've told you. This is something that actually happened, and indeed the beings themselves, the hominoids, were described in a largely naturalistic kind of way. After I was well into my Nage research, I extended this project over quite a number of years. So I was still visiting Nage in the late 1990s into the 2000s. But I extended this research into a region called Leo, as I said, and it was there that in Leo that I encountered a story very similar, actually, to the legend of the Nage hominoids, about creatures that were killed in a cave, basically. I should say that most of my research on Flores as an anthropologist hasn't been concerned with this particular topic.
Okay, I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, no, it's been taken up with all kinds of things to do with local society, culture, and language, including, indeed, the indigenous religion, the language, as I said, texts, stories, local oral histories, all this kind of thing. But more than that, local folk zoology, as it's sometimes called, which is a local knowledge of animal species with which people share their environment and indeed, deal with in various ways, on the hunt as food and all the rest. So my interest in hominoids has always been located in the context of a general knowledge of the culture and language of the people concerned. And I think the book shows that. As one of the respects in which I dare say it's it's quite original. Anyway, I moved into Leo and found Leo people talking about a being they called Laiho'a, which was generally similar to the Nage hominoids, but with some differences. For one thing, it was generally described as smaller bodied. We're talking about a creature that would be standing around, according to local descriptions, around a meter or a yard tall.
Like a little kid.
Yeah, that's right. Like a small child. In fact, they use that comparison themselves. Completely cultureless in the sense that these things don't wear clothes or have other technology, somewhat hairy-bodied, although how hairy, that varies from case to case, description to description, looking like humans, except particularly in regard to the face, they look somewhat more like monkeys. I should say, by the way, that I don't know if you're familiar with the distinction between apes and monkeys. There's a definite zoological difference. That there are no apes in eastern Indonesia, but there are monkeys. There's one species of monkey which was imported to the island, actually, by all indications, several thousands of years ago. But no, ape does the job much better than monkey for reasons that become clear in the book. Also, the Indonesian language, which my hosts also speak, besides their own local languages, the Indonesian language doesn't distinguish between apes and monkeys, just as not so very long ago English didn't distinguish either. No, this is a modern zoological development.
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. Recently, I asked Mint Mobile's legal team if big wireless companies are allowed to raise prices due to inflation. They said yes. And then when I asked if raising prices technically violates those onerous 2-year contracts, they said, "What the f*** are you talking about, you insane Hollywood ass?" So to recap, we're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 up front for 3 months plus taxes and fees. Promo rate for new customers for limited time. Unlimited more than 40 gigabytes per month. Slows full terms at mintmobile.com.
Millions of people have lost weight with personalized plans from Noom. Like Evan, who can't stand salads and still lost 50 pounds.
Salads generally for most people are the easy button, right? For me, that wasn't an option. I never really was a salad guy. That's just not who I am. But Noom worked for me.
Get your personalized plan today at Noom.com. Real Noom user compensated to provide their story. In 4 weeks, the typical Noom user can expect to lose 1 to 2 pounds per week. Individual results may vary.
Anyway, so that's what the Laiho'a looked like. I mean, another distinction difference from the Nage hominoids, called Abu Gogo, by the way.
Abu Gogo, right?
Yeah, okay. Was that the Laiho'a are said still to be alive.
Because they said that they killed all the Nabugogo in that cave fire.
That's That's right, but Leo, some Leo suggest they may have become extinct fairly recently, with reduction of forests and these kinds of unfortunate modern developments. But to all intents and purposes, they are things that have been around in within the lifetime of most older adults. in Leo country, and that was an important difference, and it was because of that it was only among Leo that I could get descriptions of specimens that people
so
claim
you
to
talk
see.
to Nage people, but they don't say they see them anymore, or you don't talk to them as much anymore, or during your studies.
Well, yeah, I mean, I should also say that everybody who knows anything about the Laihoa says that they are rare, and that very few people have seen them, and this fits with the statistics
You use the example in the book of like a wolverine. Like, we know there's such a thing as a wolverine, but the chances of us ever seeing one, or people even live in wolverine country, is very, very rare. But you know that it's a thing.
Yeah. No, actually, where I am at the present in Edmonton in Canada, we're within their territory, but they are rare. But
have you ever seen one of them?
I haven't. I've seen stuffed ones.
All right,
I've seen them on film, of course.
Right.
No, never seen one in the wild. Nor would I particularly want to, because they're very dangerous animals, very vicious.
Yeah. Well, that's really interesting. I mean, the stories are so different that the people tell. It's like you're not a Bigfoot hunter. You're an anthropologist, and then these stories just you kept hearing them, and they just become so interesting. And then in 2003, when they found Homo Floresiensis, I can never pronounce it properly. I mean, that had to be amazing to you.
Well, it was. I mean, it was, what do they say these days, jaw-dropping, gobsmacking, that sort of thing. I mean, one thing that was very important and which, contributed to my amazement was that I'd already heard about the Laihoa before the find of Homo Floresiensis was made public, which was a year after the discovery of the remains. But that discovery also came after I'd heard about Laihoa, and of course before them the Nage hominoids. So it was clear from that, and this was one of the factors that encouraged me to write the book. Was that, it wasn't possible, not possible for a number of reasons, and not probable for a number of reasons, but it wasn't possible that the descriptions of Laihoa, for example, had come from people somehow getting copies of the journal Nature or news stories that had spun off from that. Looking at the details of the paleontological articles, and also that the visual reconstructions of Homo Floresiensis, the similarity was quite amazing. I mean, we can't possibly know how hairy Homo Floresiensis was, but the overall appearance and especially the size, it fitted very, very well. I should perhaps say, with regard to the size, for example, that different reports give different sizes, so we're not talking about some kind of a stereotype here. Right. Which again is consistent with different people seeing different things, different individuals, but members of the same species, as it were.
Yeah. I mean, if you saw a guy from Sweden versus a person from Flores Island, they would look a lot different.
You would still recognize them as human, though. I think there's some interesting questions that arise from that. The Leo, though, are quite certain that no matter how human-like were or are the Laihoa, they are not humans like us, as they say. That there's something a bit different, indeed something uncanny about their appearance.
Yeah, like from reading the book, you could tell, we learn about how possibly or definitely we know that we have Neanderthal, right? We have Neanderthal DNA in our Homo sapiens genes, and so we know that the Homo sapiens and Neanderthals at some point mated and back in history, but it doesn't seem like anybody would want to mate with these people or these creatures or however?
It's an interesting question. One can be surprised, I think, at the sort of matings that can take place. I'm not sure. According to modern tastes, Neanderthals.
Yeah, it could be really lonely, maybe.
Attractive either, but it certainly happened. No, I mean, there is connected with that, closely connected with that there's a whole question, and this is a paleontological question about Homo Floresiensis, and that is how closely related, indeed, Floresiensis is to Homo sapiens, or even Neanderthalensis, which are, certainly more closely related to us than whether Homo Floresiensis. There is also a question, and it's not just a terminological quibble, but an important question of why we should classify these beings in the genus Homo.
Right, I was thinking the same thing myself, and I think you cover that in the book. And I do all while I was reading it, I thought that, and now I just had a thought though. I wonder if maybe 50,000 years ago or 12,000 years ago, when they sort of had more of the roam of the island without other humans living there, and there was more of them, maybe they had more of a culture, and maybe, I'm not saying that they had cities, of course, and everything, but maybe they still didn't wear clothes. But if these are the same people and they're still around, and there's so few of them, maybe they sort of culturally, went backwards.
Devolved or
degenerated. Is the word, yeah.
Well, I say first of all that 15,000 years ago, or 10,000 years ago for that matter, nobody had cities. 15,000 years ago, we were all hunter-gatherers, food collectors. But with the Homo Floresiensis, we're talking about a hominin that had a brain about the size of a chimpanzee's. Yeah. In other words, it was about a third the size of a modern human brain. We don't. There's no definite evidence for either fire or stone tools. There's which again. Very different from Homo neanderthalensis, Neanderthal man, I should say, for a start. Different also from Homo erectus, which it goes way back, and 2 million years ago. So it really is. I mean, the Homo Floresiensis, although the majority of specialists are quite sure that it's real, really a new species, and as physically primitive as it appears to be. It's still described as an enigma, because it was just it wasn't just me that was shocked with my my field materials about Laihoa and Obugogo and the other Flores hominoids. But everyone was amazed at Homo Floresiensis, because it just, especially the date initially given for it. I might say something about the dates, and that you mentioned a figure of 12 or 15,000 years ago. That was initially the most recent date. The site, the discovery site, has been re-examined, and an older set of dates, 50 or 60,000 years previously, has been produced for the time when those specimens at the discovery site died. But the remains of this species have only been found at a single site. Whereas, we can be sure that the hobbits, as they're sometimes called, couldn't possibly have lived just at a single site. Yeah. So when it died out, or I suppose I should say now, if it really did die out, it remains an open question. Since the discovery of Floresiensis, paleoanthropologists have gone back to Flores looking for its ancestors. and they found remains of another even smaller, apparently, hominin in another part of the island that dates to around 700,000.
Holy cow!
Yeah, so very old indeed. Now they can't say that is the ancestor, but from what evidence they have, it appears similar, which would mean that the Floresiensis lineage goes way back, and evidence for stone tools, or what may be stone tools, to suggest that there have been hominins of some sort on Flores Island before 1 million years ago, which is all just a couple of decades ago. None of this would have been, maybe a bit more than a couple of decades ago, but not long ago anyway. This would have been considered just, the stuff of fantasy. So, I mean, one of the suggestions I make in the book is it's just a question, really. Is if Homo Floresiensis or its ancestors could survive on the island for 1 million years, from around 1 million years ago to much more recently, then why not in the last century, or even the last decade, or even last week.
And I think modern humans, like real modern, like us today, we don't you will see an island like Flores, and we'll see it on a map, and we know that we see wolverines and we see white tigers and we find everything. So we figure, well, they must, if they were there, we would see them. But I don't think, as maybe Westerners, and we don't realize how remote something like that really is. It's not like a little field behind your house. This is very remote, and if you're not really looking, you won't find it, right?
Well, that's right. And 2 points there. I mean, one is that there are new species, not as dramatic as a living hominid, or hominin indeed, but new species nevertheless are being discovered and documented all the time. And the other point connected with that is that new species are often, usually I should say, discovered not because somebody is specifically gone out to look for that thing, or a team has gone in search of it, but something incidental to another piece of research, or to use ordinary language, by accident. People just have stumbled across it. And in that respect, of course, I do briefly deal with in the book, species that were thought to be extinct years ago, or thought they should have been extinct years ago, have been discovered and alive and reasonably well, including 2 in Southeast Asia, and one in Indonesia, the coelacanth, a large marine fish.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I think I heard about it. Yes, I did. They were supposed to be extinct, and somebody caught one.
Yeah, well, in fact, they've discovered 2 separate species of them during the last 100 years or so.
I mean, there is one part in your book I just saw before we started talking, because I was getting towards the end, and I'll quote a little bit. It said something like, here it goes, "The idea goes back as far as French naturalist Georges Cuvier, probably, and his assertion published in 1812 that there is little hope of discovering new species of large quadrupeds, because large animals should have more difficulty staying hidden than smaller ones," which seemed reasonable. But since he made that, numbers of large primate animals have been found, like gorillas and.
Yeah.
I mean, before that, you mentioned they thought pygmies were just a story that wasn't a real thing, and then we found no, pygmies are real. So hey, we really don't know, right? I mean, like you said, it's very remote. Not anybody's looking for them. No,
that's quite right. There are a number of institutional reasons why people don't simply go out looking for something that might exist. Something I go into in the last chapter of the book. I mean, this is
right. You don't want to be booked as a Bigfoot hunter or something like that, which is why even like when I said to you, I said, well, if you like to go on our show, we're not like aliens built the pyramids people here. We're doing real, like you're doing real research, and we like to do real history, and we're not just asking questions like some of these people. I guess that could be kind of a bad thing, I guess, if some, those Bigfoot hunters like sort of catch on to this. But boy, you really would like somebody to. I mean, could you imagine if we find a tribe or something of like ancient? I mean, what would that be like? Do you think? Could you imagine?
Well, a group of what exactly? Something like
If we found a couple of these. What would you call them? How do you pronounce
a
it?
Laihoa, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
like
yeah.
imagine if we found a family of them,
Yeah.
and we sort of, they were walking around like. It's funny how you say how they walk like clowns because they have big feet, so they have to lift their legs.
Well, that's how Homo Floresiensis walked, apparently. And something interested me particularly is that certain descriptions of Laihoa suggest that they may well have walked the same way as the paleos have inferred. So quite remarkable. But if we actually found a group of these hominins, or even a single specimen, dead or alive, it would be earth-shattering news. I sometimes, well, I don't think about this a lot, but the question has occurred to me whether I would get any acknowledgement in that.
I think you would.
Well, maybe, but
once you Google it, you'll find a lot of stories about you.
Oh, well, that's right. But no, the point being that whoever, well, more specifically, whatever scientist was able to observe, to inspect the specimen and decided what it was, or offered an interpretation or an hypothesis, that would be the person who would get the most. I would have thought the most media attention. Though, I might.
I think they'd be calling you for interviews on CNN too.
Yeah.
You would be on the BBC and CNN and everything.
Yeah,
I mean, it's funny that there's not any, maybe even after your book, maybe some people would look for it. It would just seem like you would make a name for yourself if you were to find a family of these in a cave somewhere.
Oh, indeed. Yeah.
I think, but there's nobody really looking for them as far as besides you, as far as your work, what you've done. There's nobody out there going into those caves and seeing what's in there.
Well, not so far as I know. A few things to say about that. I mean, first of all, I point out that the nature of my research has been dealing with people who know about the hominoids, and including some who say they've seen one. So I don't have. I'm not a field zoologist or primatologist, so I was restricted in that respect too. But also, I must confess that I really got into this topic in earnest. Back in the 2000s to 2005 and there beyond. By which time I was, getting on in years, and as it is now, for health reasons, I'm not able to contemplate.
Yeah, be climbing in those hot mountains.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's to do that, you would need somebody who's fairly young and of course pretty fit and knowledgeable about how to deal with the terrain and all this.
I just had a funny thought. Maybe when they do find it and they make a movie, The Rock will play you, right? He'll be, The Rock. What's his name? He was in Jumanji and all those, and he's the big, strong wrestler guy.
Oh, yeah.
The Rock. Yeah, Dwayne Johnson. He'll play you in the movie while you go.
I know who you refer to. Yeah. Well, if somebody wanted to make such a film, they could. But I'm not sure I would necessarily endorse it. But getting on, linking with what we were saying before about institutional barriers, if you will, to deliberately going in search of new species. Yeah, I mean, people who were qualified field zoologists or primatologists, for example, would would have difficulty getting sponsors and funding for their work. Also, of course, there is a cultural aspect to all this, so you would need at least one anthropologist, such as myself, along. I mean, my part of my success, if we want to call it that, has to do with the fact that I worked in Indonesia. I've been working in Indonesia since the 1970s. So it's getting on for 50 years.
You speak the languages, all that
kind
of thing. Right?
That's exactly right, yeah. And I mean, that's one reason why my work on Flores went, I think, as smoothly as it did. And I'm talking about my researches into all kinds of local matters, was because I'd already had the experience of Sumba, and I could, speak knowledgeably about, well, not about Flores Island initially, but about Sumba Island, a neighboring island, and
people trusted you then,
people in general,
like
and
right,
all this. So that was a tremendous benefit.
Is anybody going to continue your work now? Do you have like a protege or anything like that?
I don't really. As I say, I'm retired.
We're looking for one.
And I'm taking retirement quite seriously. I mean, I'm still writing, but I don't, of course, have any graduate students. Even so, that said, it's not impossible, that in the future somebody will contact me for assistance who, wants to do something like that. I've had a number of film producers contact me since the book came out. Nothing's come of that yet, and my agent tells me that that this is typical, that producers, filmmakers do typically have a tough time, convincing whoever it is, the History Channel or National Geographic or people with the money. Right. That this is going to, draw a sufficient audience, which of course is the line on these things. But even so, my agent also said that, if it happens, it can often take years. So, it might still happen that somebody
it would take it on. Yeah, I mean, you get publicity. Somebody.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, there's like stories of little people all over, like, not just in this culture, obviously. There's stories of leprechauns and all these things.
Yeah.
But I mean, reading your book, you could see a lot of these stories they're so similar, they're not like, there's obviously, like you mentioning, you guys should read the book. You'd say about people will embellish a little here and a little there, but, there just seems like so many things. It's like, why would they be making up all these things? And, we triangulate. One person said one. So like, what do you think?
Yeah.
What do you really think? I mean, I think there probably is something there from reading your book.
Well, that's the possibility I deal with in the book as one of a number of possible explanations for what people told me. And I go through quite a number. The first thing I do after the introductory chapter and after a chapter which gives a general description of what people say the Leo ape men look like. After that, in chapter 3, I confront head on the question of, well, might these just be imaginary beings, spirits, spiritual beings,
right?
Indeed, I mean, Leo and other Flores Islanders do believe, we can say, in the existence of spirits, and just in the way many people around the world also believe in them. And believe in God, a being that is beyond the natural, supernatural beings, which can't simply be seen like Dwayne Johnson or whoever might be
That's a way to bring it back.
Seen. So, and what I do in that chapter is I say, well, there are similarities, certainly, and the small size is one thing, but that there are an awful lot of differences between the way that Neo people describe the Laihoa and the way they describe forest spirits and other supernatural beings whose existence they recognize. And indeed, they themselves say, look, no, these are not spirits; these are different. And they themselves recognize the differences. Also,
they're an actual animal.
No, I mean, another thing to say is that the spiritual beings that Flores Islanders recognize, believe in, if you will, they play a part in their ritual life. These are beings that, in their indigenous religion, indeed. I mean, these are things that people, either pray to or take religious measures to avoid or drive away or what have you, whereas none of that applies to the Laihoa. I mean, they are all, to all intents and purposes, they're like, a documented natural species.
Yeah, they just think of it as another animal or something that lives in the forest, like a monkey or
well, that's right. They do find them, weird, if you like, uncanny, in ways that they don't find most animals, and a large part of the reason for that, of course, is that they look so much like humans, and yet they're different.
Yeah. But so, like, in your opinion, do you think that they're there? I mean, I think you probably do. I don't know. I don't know if you said it in the book. Your bottom line.
Well,
you don't want to go on the record.
Well, I want people to read the book.
Well, yeah, read the book then. Don't everyone say what he thinks. I'm good with that. Tell me offline.
As I said, what I do in the book is I look at a number of possible explanations. In fact, all the possible, general sorts of possible explanations I can think of, and I come to the conclusion that these things really existing and people, actually a few people actually seeing them is as good an explanation as any other, and in fact is a better explanation. It makes more sense than other.
Yeah, everybody making it up.
Yeah. Well,
it's kind of what we're finding out about aliens now. Not to get into that, but boy, there's a lot of stuff in the news now, and you're like, this is really crazy. This seems like, all these people seeing them, must be something going on, but we're not talking about that right now.
Well, I mean, there's enough. There's perhaps enough craziness, you could say, in the world. Some very serious craziness, quite apart from space aliens or non-sapiens hominins that still exist. One needs to keep an open mind and very often, rethink conventional wisdom. The recent review, which I think from current anthropology, makes that point.
Well, I mean, I definitely would suggest our listeners to check out this book. And did I miss anything? Is there anything else you wanted to say? I know we've been actually talking for like almost 50 minutes.
I would say I find the most, dare I say, readable, entertaining parts of the book are the local stories from people I know. Their names are disguised with pseudonyms. And the details of what they told me, and not just what they told me they saw, but how they felt about what they saw, and so on. And if anybody deserves credit for this project, it's those, those highlights.
Yeah, because a lot of them didn't really want to talk about it. They think that, you'd be crazy, or I know a lot of their wives didn't want them to talk about it. So, we don't want any spoilers here, but I really recommend the book because it's very interesting. The stories are great. And, it's like anything, like memory changes. That's what I remember. Like, you're kind of like a detective. You know, like you're interviewing all these people, and then how a story, memory changes. You remember a lot of them think they had tails was a big thing, and then we know that hominins and hominoids don't have tails, and apes don't have tails, and one day they say they have a tail and one day they don't, but it doesn't mean that they're lying. That's a lot of the interesting stuff.
Well, on that particular point, one thing I do go into in chapter 2 early on is why they might think they have tails, and I go into maybe a bit technical for a lot of people, but it's really quite simple. Leopi, other Flores Islanders as well, that they not only do they think that all animals have tails, whether they're particularly evident or not, but they talk about animals in tails. As I say, if you want to talk about a number of horses or a number of magpies or elephants or anything else, you have to talk about so many tails of horses or. Right. Oh yeah, and it goes. Even as they acknowledge, this applies even to things which they say don't have tails. Where as human beings, humans like us, are never spoken of in that way. Although we do have a little bit of a tailbone as well, as it happens, even more than a gibbon, which is a kind of ape.
I was thinking maybe they have a little hair, these animals. Maybe they have a little hair on the bottom, like maybe where your tailbone is, a little bit of hair comes out. And I could, you're scared and you see this little, what? You might think it had a tail. You only see it for a second.
Well, that's correct as well. But nevertheless, they infer that they have tails because, as they say, they're not humans. They are ultimately animals, even though they're very human-like. And this is another aspect of their culture and the way they classify nature, if you will. So these are all things that have to be, considered in weighing the various possibilities.
Yeah. I would say to the listeners, and first of all, thank you for coming on our show today. It was great. I think I enjoyed the book. I'm going to finish it. I'm just going to say I was getting through it. I had a crazy week at work, and my daughter was sick. So I appreciate you rescheduling, too. Thank you. And keep your Canadian wildfires to yourself, please.
Oh, I guess nothing you can do, but it's funny because it hasn't been bad around here. I mean, we're quite close to fires, but because the direction of the prevailing winds, we've had a few smoky days, but nothing like they had it in Chicago and
and where I live.
Yeah, where you're in New York State, is it?
I'm near New York. Yeah, I'm in Scranton, Pennsylvania, we were just as bad as New York. Yeah, we had some really bad days.
Yeah. No, I remember about 12 years ago we had it very bad. Yeah, those were fires from the neighboring province to the west, British Columbia, but they blew this way as well. And so it's not.
Keep those there. You guys, the book is called. Wait, let me go so I make sure I say it right. Oh, the name of the book is Between Ape and Human: An Anthropologist on the Trail of a Hidden Hominoid, and it's available in all places, right? I get it on my Google Play book.
Yep.
You could get it on Amazon, I'm sure, and you could get it on your Kindle, anywhere you read your books, right?
Yeah. Actual bookstores are a possibility as well.
Actual bookstores are a possibility.
Yeah, indeed.
I'm not that young. I'm in my 50s, but I do like to read on Google because I could take my phone with me or I could take my tablet and I could make notes, and I'm into it.
Yeah, that's good.
So that's where I'm reading it.
Okay.
So, well, thank you very much, Gregory Forth, and for being on our show. I will, and so check out our Facebook page, please. Make sure you get Dr. Forth's book. Check out our Facebook page. Check out our Patreon, patreon.com/fanofhistory. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, thank you.